Hello? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Is anybody listening?
Welcome, weary traveler, to Zombie Town, where we wish you a vaguely spooky Halloween.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. I have clawed my way out of my coffin to be with you once again. I am Derek. And please give a hand to Jim, the scientifically reanimated severed head on a stick, because he hasn't got any of his own.
We couldn't shell out for the jar. It was too expensive.
Yeah. And the frightened grave robber hiding in the corner over here is Mark. Hello, Mark. Don't be afraid.
He's not afraid. How about that?
He's not afraid. I thought he'd be afraid. Well, and now, as is our Halloween tradition, we will set your mind at ease or perhaps disturb it further, because it's time for this mortician to call that ghastly apparition with a flair for erudition. Please welcome Spooky Dave.
Hi. What's up?
Ah!
Ah! What an anticlimax. Oh, this is the show where the living ask their unanswered questions and we dig up some vaguely spine-tingling answers. Who knows? We might even get a few right. But first, it's time for Jim's sinister science fact from beyond the grave.
So Marie Curie's notebooks are still so thoroughly coated in radioactive materials that they are still unsafe to handle. And they'll still be dangerous for hundreds of years, too.
Like, how dangerous?
As I recall from what I was reading, I believe they are still stored in lead-lined containers, and you have to have a hazmat suit on if you need to flip through them for some reason.
Dang.
That sounds not efficient.
Yeah. Well, it's a big part of it is just the fact that she was working with radium, which is not just radioactive, but also very good at binding to your cells. So radium gets in you and it won't get out. It's kind of scary.
Wow, that is like a horror movie monster. Dang.
Speaking of horror movie monsters, thank you, Mark, for that easy segue.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about our first question, which comes to us from Jeremiah. How would you die in a Freddy Krueger movie?
Horribly.
That's good. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't know that anybody doesn't die horribly in those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them don't die, I suppose, but...
Yeah, the ones that don't die, they don't die horribly.
Yeah.
The ones that do die, they do die horribly.
Well, they might later, you just don't see it.
That's true. They might fall down the stairs or end up on the Titanic somehow, you know.
So I wanna lead off just with this quick note that I went in two directions with this question, and I have notes on both. The first one is a little off prompt, but I looked up dream science and whether or not you can actually be killed by your dreams.
Oh.
And then the second, which I feel like is the more literal interpretation, is I kind of took it as a writing prompt to write like basically a scene or a scenario if I were a character in Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, what would my death sequence be?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how everyone else approached it.
Well, I'm not even all that familiar with the franchise, and I tried to look a few things up, but I wasn't sure. Is it like does he kill you in like an ironic way, or?
Sometimes.
Okay. Well, then I can make my own ironic death.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Some of the kills in most of the Nightmare on Elm Streets are like really creative and lean into like dream logic, and some of them are more just like psychological horror, whereas others are very straightforward, and some of them are just plain cartoony. And ultimately the variety is fine. I prefer the fantastical ones that are less silly but still creative. But there's an interesting point that a lot of the times there's irony and there's like the sense of people getting their just desserts. So they're kind of tailored to the individual. And then other times they're more like tailored to the person who is witnessing them, like the protagonist of the film. So I'm kind of like assuming if we are the protagonist of the film, like it would be tailored to us, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think I would probably have a very sciencey death. But I want to hear everyone else's deaths first, because then I can figure out what is appropriate for Freddy Krueger.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit first about the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street originally came from an old wives' tale that if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. And this was actually believed for a really long time because, I mean, this seems an unscientific thing to say, and it kind of is, but that's actually kind of difficult to disprove because we cannot ask people who have just died what they were dreaming about.
Right, yeah.
It's true.
However, we can say probably with confidence that the dreams aren't generally the cause of death. But we don't know that for sure either.
Yeah, we do know that if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life because we have photographic video proof of that.
Without the brain, the body can't live, right?
Yeah, we've watched it happen on screen many times.
So, so I looked up that an elevated heart rate and pre-existing health problems could cause you to die as a reaction to something that you were dreaming about. You literally can be scared to death if your body produces enough adrenaline that it gives you a heart attack. And your body increases your breathing and your heart rate and your blood pressure during REM sleep. So theoretically, you could have a heart attack.
Those increase during REM
They
sleep.
increase
I
during
didn't know
REM because, the National Institutes of Health cite 4 cases of what they misleadingly call deadly dreams from victims who had no previous reports of health problems. These were non-fatal, but they were cases in which people had nightmares and had heart attacks in response to them. And while these were non-fatal, that does suggest that you theoretically could die because any heart attack is potentially life-threatening.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of things called parasomnia, which are unusual things happening during your sleep, such as sleep paralysis, sleepwalking, or REM sleep behavior disorder, which is similar to sleepwalking in that like you're dreaming and your body is moving in response to something. So you might, like if you're sleeping next to someone, you might like hit them in your sleep because you're struggling. But I learned sleepwalking specifically occurs outside of REM sleep.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense.
The last bit about that I want to say that is like more sciencey, I suppose, is there is something called a hypnic jerk.
Oh, yes. I hate those.
We've probably all experienced. So as your muscles relax, your brain... as your muscles relax when you're trying to sleep, your brain can misinterpret this as falling.
Oh, okay.
Which will trigger a sudden jolt, and they'll try to prevent that from happening. So if you've ever like woken up abruptly and like felt like you just landed in your bed, that's what's happening there. And this is the brain incorporating physical sensation into the dream narrative. So basically making sense of what physical stimuli are happening to you in your unconscious mind because you're not using your eyes to see, I suppose. So in theory, if you are dying anyway, your brain might incorporate whatever sensation you're experiencing into the dream narrative. So there's that.
Yeah. If you're already... Well, it's kind of like... I remember when I was very little and I was still asleep, but my alarm clock was going off. And like in my dream, I heard this noise. It was the alarm clock. And I was like, what's that noise? And then I heard my mom say, it's the alarm clock. And then I woke up. So it's like, yeah, you can incorporate different aspects of your dream. And like part of the dying process is that you are dreaming about dying, I suppose. But then how would you prove that exactly?
Right? I think your brain writes dreams retroactively sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting how dreams, and sometimes there are dreams that are right on the edge of where you are kind of, and that's, you get into lucid dreams at that point, but there are states that you can be in where you're dreaming, but you're not asleep all the way. And maybe sometimes you're even aware of that, which I think is kind of interesting. And that's where Freddy Krueger gets you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Why do you say it makes sense that sleepwalking happens outside of REM sleep?
Because it was always my impression that when you get into REM sleep, a lot of the times your body sort of has that full body paralysis that we tend to get during sleep cycles. And so if you're in REM sleep, you're probably less likely to have those movements, I would think. I haven't actually looked into this, but in my head, it made sense. It clicked.
Sure. Well, I think that's specifically interesting because of REM behavior disorder is specifically your that paralysis not working. So learning that sleepwalking happens outside of REM sleep is interesting, and I don't have an explanation for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a brain is a tremendous exaggerator.
Yeah.
My muscles are relaxing, so what does my brain do? Well, you're falling off a building.
You must be falling.
You're
Yeah,
gonna die, buddy.
And it's wild because that's the kind of thing that, you have that happen to you and you wake up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not super helpful.
They should call the skull, it's a bowl for your brain, right? They should call it the hyper bowl.
Oh, my
Oh, it's
God.
like a hyperbole mispronunciation. Woo! So it was a stretch, I know.
That was good, though. 8 out of 10.
I did find one account of someone not dying during sleepwalking, but someone killing during sleepwalking.
Oh, that's horrible.
This is not the only case of this happening, but there is a Supreme Court of Canada case, R.V. Parks, in 1992. A man killed his stepfather and severely injured his stepmother while sleepwalking. And when he woke up, he immediately went to the police station and turned himself in. And he was ultimately found not guilty due to insane automatism. And I've linked the case report of this in the show notes because it's complicated and I don't understand it.
Insane automatism. Wow.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in reading more about that.
There was a big debate about, does the insanity plea count? Did he do it voluntarily? Because that's what it ultimately comes down to. And the judge dismissed first and second degree murder because it wasn't voluntary. But they couldn't determine if the insanity plea was appropriate or if automatism is a legal defense. And they ultimately ruled that in this case it was because he was not like a danger of killing anyone else. He had no motive to, I guess, is the result. But like, I would not want to wake up to that because like that guy, he's punishing himself.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like, not only is it someone who I presume he liked, but also you are still responsible for that death, whether you did it on purpose or not.
Yeah.
And that's just not a good feeling.
Yeah. So, well, if anyone is interested, I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I will explain my writing prompt for how I think Freddy Krueger might kill me. And I guess I'll give a few options to kind of give Jim says less familiar with Nightmare on Elm Street, might want some thematic inspiration here. So there's a few different ways it can go. If Freddy wants to torture me, drowning, suffocation, or locked-in syndrome are like my biggest real-life fears.
Oh, yeah.
That's if we want to do a really dark take. If he wants to do something thematic to me, And I struggled with this because I am a person who I consider myself kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to hobbies. Not that I'm good at everything, but that I want to be. So there's a lot of different things that you might focus on. So like maybe I would be turned into a piece in a board game.
Oh.
I like that.
And it would be like a particularly violent board game, or some of my drawings perhaps come to life because I could see Freddy Krueger having a fictional character that I created stalk and kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, for the next month, probably only draw whimsical friendly characters. And in one of the films, Dream Warriors, where the kids, the teenagers realize they can give themselves superpowers in the dream world, which I guess is not everyone's favorite movie, but I really like the concept.
Mm-hmm.
He transports one of the characters named Mark, no relation, I presume, into a black and white comic world where Mark is a superhero and Freddy kills him by ripping him because he is a drawing on paper.
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
Yeah. So two more. I see myself getting trapped in a photograph that is just thrown into a fire.
Mm-hmm.
That may be thematic to me. And then I also see myself being in a theatrical production in which all the actors have turned against me and I'm forced to sword fight them. And there's so much you could do with like allusions to like Macbeth or something, which is just its own horror story.
What if you're just stabbed to death like Caesar?
I could be.
Brutus is Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that I thought Freddy might do to me if I were to write the Elm Street installment where I'm a character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly Freddy would kill me. If it's anything like the dreams that bother me the most, it would be like I would nearly just be on the precipice of getting away from him, and then I would be like trying to figure something out on my phone, and it wouldn't be doing the thing. And then he'd get me like right at the end, and it was just like, come on, just, and it would be
just give me this one.
It would mostly be frustrating because it would be like, oh, I'm right. Come on, I'm right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then he I don't know, drops a piano on me or something. I don't know.
Well, no, I like the idea there being that he toys with you and sets it up so that there's always hope of you escaping.
Oh, yeah. I like the idea of someone dropping a piano on you. Not you personally, but that's just like
wow,
a cartoonish, and I appreciate it because in real life it would be horrific.
I just had a vague flashback to last year. In last year's Halloween episode, we decided that Dave was going to throw bleach in Jim's face.
Oh, yeah.
And this feels like a follow-up to that. I like the idea of someone dropping a piano on you.
That's not me. I'm not going to do it. And I don't want you to get hit with a piano. I'm just saying, like, as far as ways to go.
I think I could read in between the lines there, Jim. That's okay.
I better send that pulley back to the store.
Can read in between the white keys.
Whoa.
The sharps and flats of it.
Or maybe the black keys are the lines. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. There's a metaphor somewhere.
The lines on the sheet music.
Yeah, the lines on the staff there.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken this too far. Let's continue.
I see you as Freddy Krueger takes a piano and strings it with Dave's nerve endings.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
It wouldn't
work
play very well.
acoustically. Yeah, that
It wouldn't work acoustically, no.
Yeah, the worst torture is our ears. That's what the sound that it produces.
Yeah. That'll be the torture that keeps on giving.
Yeah, I don't mind the mutilation so much, but
But please stop playing out of tune.
Yeah, you'll be dead for that part, so you don't even have to suffer through it.
oh right. Yeah, it's really worse for you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe that's really how he kills me.
I was just thinking about one thing that I think would be pretty horrific and certainly couldn't happen in the real world, as we recently discussed on this show, is that I think it'd be really awful to melt. and to do it very slowly, and not like in a chemical way, just like in a phase change kind of way where my body becomes a liquid. That would be off, especially since in my head, I envision sort of starting at the bottom. Like if you put an ice cube on a hot surface, it melts sort of on the bottom first, and then it kind of like, sinks down into whatever it's melting into. So like, you're standing there and then your legs start to melt and then you can't go anywhere. Yeah. And so you're just going to keep on melting for however long it takes for, an adult human body to melt.
I think he'd turn you into a candle.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That would be a really unpleasant way to go.
Wow, that's way more creative than I was thinking. He'd just throw Jim out of an airlock on a spaceship.
No, that's what I would do to Jim.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty quick way to go as I understand it. So that's not really like a scary or like tormenting kind of, unless it's like he chases me through a space station or something.
Ooh.
And you know what? It would be really disorienting if the space station had gravity that like switched on and off. So he's chasing me through the station. He's unaffected by these gravity changes, but I'm trying to float away and then gravity comes on and like falls smack on my face. And then, eventually he corners me and I'm like, oh no. And then he throws me at the airlock.
So stick with me on this one, because I think that is the more protagonist Jim.
Mm.
Let's
what about
say
the antagonist Jim?
Not antagonist, but let's say supporting character Jim.
The antagonist Jim is the one that drops pianos on Dave.
Apparently, yeah. That's we already covered that.
Yeah.
But if you're more of a supporting character, and this is supposed to be a death that is witnessed by the main character, I see a scene where you are thrown out of the airlock on a spaceship, and then we see your room and your body lying in bed, and you're just flung into the wall.
Oh, okay.
Like, I could see that happening in the movie.
I thought you were going to say that I was thrown out of the airlock and the space shuttle's coming by and I splat on the windshield like a bug.
Oh, it could be. It could be that.
Freddy turns on the spaceship windshield wipers.
The very real windshield wipers that are on the space shuttle.
Yeah. And he looks back at the camera and mugs.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the Jim.
Yeah, the kids call it aura farming.
I want to hear how does Mark die in the vaguely scientific Nightmare on Vaguely Elm Street?
A vague nightmare on
the vague spinoff.
Vaguely Elm Street. I think if Freddy wanted to torture me, I would have one of those dreams where you like wake up from real life. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh my God, I'm like 15 again. And those whole like 16, 17 years were like all a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would really mess somebody up if they thought like 16 years of their life didn't happen. And then Freddy would be like appearing around corners and stuff, and I'd be doing like double takes at the...
I think it'd be really just one of the most unpleasant ways to live your life. Not even, to be killed that way, but just like, oh man. Having that whole chunk of your life. Yeah.
The one person he doesn't kill.
Yeah.
I guess I have a big fear of like dementia someday. So that kind of is where that haunts me a little bit. I knew a guy recently who... he recently passed away from Alzheimer's. I was amazed because he was such a happy-go-lucky dude. Like he went through the whole disease being a very like happy, pleasant person. And I was always watching him and being like, I don't know if I could do that, man.
Yeah,
that'd be spooky.
That actually, so it reminded me. I've heard stories about this, and I'm not sure how true they actually are. But people who take various types of hallucinogenics, it seem to experience like an entire life, and then once it wears off, it like they snap back to reality, and it's like I would never want to experience that, because all the things you do in that life that you enjoy, and like all the people you meet, and you fall in love or whatever, it's like, and then it's all taken away from you, and that seems like a tremendous source of suffering.
That's like the Rick and Morty thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that would be a terrible thing.
Was it Dave?
Dave, I think.
No,
Dave.
it was...
You're Dave.
That was the sequel.
Oh, right,
okay.
yeah.
I just assume every fictional character whose name we don't know is Dave.
It was Roy.
Roy.
It was
Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
Roy.
okay.
Yeah, you. There was a game, and they lived Roy's life. It was this,
Mhm.
and then later there was the sequel, Roy 2, Dave.
Yeah, that was a good bit.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the idea behind Freddy Krueger is somebody who can invade your dreams, because
Mm-hmm.
that's not really a place you can defend yourself at all. And I think
Yeah.
that just makes it extra scary, because you can live your life relatively safely. You can protect yourself in your home. You can avoid taking risks, but you go to bed and you're just vulnerable for 8 hours. And well, if you're lucky, 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
He can kind of use your whole consciousness against you.
Yeah.
He knows what makes you tick.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I presume there are no secrets in there. So,
Does anybody else have like a weird continuity in their dreams?
not generally.
I feel like not all the time, but
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes.
Not like narratively, but like if I'm in a dream, like I just have an intuition that like oh, I could fly or something, or like
Mhm.
or I can do this, and it's just like, oh yeah, I can breathe underwater. Like I've always been.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's like, oh, yeah, that's a normal thing that I definitely can do. And I just accept it.
right, but it's not even like, oh wow, I can do this, and it's unusual. It's like, oh no, this I've just always been like this. I've always been able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really weird whenever I have a dream where it's like something weird happens in the dream. And I'm like, oh, that's like this dream I had. And A, I never had that dream. And B, it's like so weird to reference something that doesn't exist in my dream that justifies what is happening in the dream.
Oh, that's really close to like what I was gonna say. Kind of. I have had dreams that feel like continuations, or I like to use the word sequels, to other dreams that I've had with asterisk. I've woken up thinking, wait, was that actually a continuation of a dream I had a long time ago, or did I just have two dreams in a row? And is that is that dream logic telling me that?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Dream logic is wild.
I love it. I find the dreamscape and all the sort of different philosophies and mythologies and fiction that can be done with it. I find that all so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
The human unconscious.
I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but that's one of the reasons I find Freddy Krueger interesting, even though they may not be my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
He's not always executed perfectly, but there are a few of those movies that are like really good and spooky as heck.
Speaking of executing perfectly, our second question comes to us from Mustafa Akkad, or rather, I'm attributing it to him. Why can't slashers be killed? The reason that I'm attributing that to Mustafa Akkad is because in addition to being a director of other films, he was actually the producer of Halloween, who said Michael Myers can't die to ensure that they can further the franchise.
That makes sense. Because it seems to me that a lot of these sort of slasher, I almost call them like mass production films, which is not fair to say, really. But a lot of these slasher films are franchises. And so as soon as you kill the bad guy, then you can't make the franchise. I mean, there are ways you can get around that, I'm sure. Someone inherits the title, or, they come back from the dead. But I think that's a very valid point, and I think that's sort of the meta reason.
Yeah. Well, I looked into some of the more popular slasher franchises to find like the canonical answers as to why some of them can't die, but I also found it interesting that we don't want them to die, as the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And to directly respond to Jim's point, an easy way, let's take Mike Myers as the example I've already listed, but we can go into others. If we want to make another Michael Myers movie, but he died in the last one, they usually come up with some reason that he's still alive, or they retcon it and say that didn't happen, or they, there's some explanation. However, there isn't always, and there doesn't always have to be. And it's kind of like in the same way that James Bond has a different girl in every movie, or why does the Joker keep breaking out of Arkham and doing very similar things? I mean, sometimes these things are explained, but even when they're not, it's just because that's the story, right?
Yeah. It's very much, in a way, I feel like the same rules as soap operas, where you can kill anyone you want, but you have to have a way to bring them back if possible. And, it's so interesting to see how soap operas handle this in a lot of ways, because there are so many instances where they really kill a character, and there's an open casket funeral and things like that. And then 6 or 7 years later, they're like, oh crap, this actor wants to come back and we'd love to have them back. So they were cloned, and the clone was put in the hospital bed and died of tuberculosis. Meanwhile, they were kidnapped and put into a harem. This is a real thing that happened on The Bold and the Beautiful.
Sure. Really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering the details correctly, this was 1998. So,
Whoa.
There is a saying, it all dates back to the death and return of Superman, that the DC Comics didn't kill Superman, they killed death. Because in DC Comics, at least, once Superman came back to life, everyone started coming back to life.
Yeah.
A lot of the this is all good meta stuff, but I have also noticed a pattern in the in-universe reasons with slashers, where they tend to start off. Sometimes they start off completely supernatural, but in the times that they don't, if they keep getting sequels and stuff, they go more and more supernatural. They start off
absolutely
right.
Yeah, they start getting superpowers, and in fact, one of the nerdy TTRPG games I like the Chronicles of Darkness that I like to run. There's a game line called Hunter the Vigil, where you're monster hunters and stuff. And one of the main bad guys in that are slashers, and they sort of gamify it in the game, and it defines them as either a Ripper or a Scourge, or they got to have little categories for every single thing in because it's a game. But if it's a Ripper, it's he's a serial killer and he stabs babies, and he's scary, But the thing is, they'll have these powers where if you take him down and look away, he's gone. If you look back and this and that, and then they can turn up later, and a Ripper can turn into a Scourge, and then all of a sudden a Scourge is your Freddy Krueger, or your later Jason Voorhees, where he's just this zombie, that just can't die and so on. So it's sort of this, and I think the real world reason is they get their superpowers from being popular with audiences and making money. This guy can turn into a franchise, but they can go in that direction because slasher movies are good indie horror fodder, because it's not super expensive to make make a slasher.
Right. Yeah.
I want to directly tie that to one of my personal favorite installments in the Nightmare on Elm Street canon. To go back to Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger can't die because he's already dead, and he's like a spirit that inhabits people's dreams. But I don't remember the full title, if it is Nightmare on Elm Street and a subtitle, but it is called Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
Maybe not the best movie, but just a really neat idea is it takes place in the quote unquote real world, where the actor who played Nancy in the first Nightmare on Elm Street starts having dreams about Freddy Krueger. So she calls Robert Englund, the actor who plays Freddy Krueger, and tells him about it, and he says, you're going to want to talk to Wes about this. So she calls Wes Craven, who basically ultimately explains, Freddy Krueger was inspired by this demon that demands that he keeps making Nightmare on Elm Street movies, or else he will be able to break free into the real world and kill people.
This is the greatest. I love that so much.
So it is literally his popularity with the audience is what like keeps him, in that case, it's what keeps him imprisoned, I suppose.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's one of the reasons like the Scream franchise is so good, because it's it's aware of the meta. And I think that's what you get into with when you go deep into slasher stuff, because you know the writers are totally aware of what's happening and the reasons that it's happening. And it's like the slasher characters do take on this. They do grow more powerful in their own universe and in real life, which is weird, but kind of cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk on that note. I want to talk a little bit about Ghostface from the Scream franchise. So Ghostface is actually always a different person in every movie. Because they find out who the murderer is. The Scream franchise is a series of whodunit films disguised as meta slasher films, and the killer always wears the same mask and always does kind of the same thing. The phone call is always voiced by the same guy, but the person wearing the mask in the world is always a different person. Except even though you find out who the killer is in every movie, Ghostface, the identity of Ghostface is kind of its own character that like everyone embodies. Everyone who puts on the guise becomes this like almost ethereal new thing, which is a very metaphysical kind of way of doing it. So that's why that slasher can't die.
That makes sense. What if the reason the slasher can't die is because there was never a slasher to begin with? And everyone was running from creepy noises in the woods, and they fall to their deaths off of cliffs.
Jim, I genuinely want to know if you knew this.
I probably don't.
In Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees is not the killer.
That makes sense.
Did you know that?
I did not know that, but it makes sense.
So Jason Voorhees is a named character who was a kid that drowned in the lake, and it turns out the killer is his mother. It is not until the second one that they decide Jason Voorhees comes back from the dead and is now a supernatural zombie monster.
Huh.
I want to point out, and this is me being a nerd, the reason Jason Voorhees is unable to be killed, and I'm gonna get people arguing with me, and I embrace it, is because he was reanimated by the Necronomicon and is the same kind of monster as Ash fights in the Evil Dead franchise. In the film Jason Goes to Hell, a character discovers a book and dagger that are recognizable as the Necronomicon and Kandarian dagger from the Evil Dead series, and the director, Adam Marcus, confirmed he included these as an Easter egg to create a fun crossover mythology for Jason and the Evil Dead. He considers that is the actual origin of the magic that brings Jason back to life. A lot of fans don't like that. However, there are two categories of nerds in the world. The people who accept that Jason is a Deadite and the people who hate fun.
Well, I have long hated fun, so I
either way, Jason can't die because he's a zombie. He is already dead. He's a reanimated person.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's always fun to come up with reasons why a character is alive again after they have died. And I mean, I think that that's part of the charm of the slasher genre, is that in much the same way, again, with soap operas and comic books, it's like, I know you haven't killed this character off forever, because if you did, then there would be no more of these. And so therefore, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and the ultimate thing about comic books, soap operas, and slasher films is if there is an ending that you personally liked, that's the one that is real.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting backwards world where all of the like innocent human people were like, yeah, I can't wait to see how gruesomely they get carved up by this slasher villain. But then when it comes to the villain itself, when you leave the movie, you're like, boy, I know that, Jason went through the wood chipper, but I can't wait till he comes back next time. There's no way he's dead.
Yeah. It's like, oh, how's he going to get him? That kind of mentality. I think it's really fascinating how like people who watch these types of movies, I mean, they're fun movies. They're fun and silly. And we kind of root for the slasher, not because we want him to win, but because we just want to see how he is defeated.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a really interesting way to have a hero, because we like, I don't know, Jason and Freddy Krueger are heroes in the cultural zeitgeist, I suppose. I
think in that way, folks who watch those, I mean, when I'm watching films like that, I'm kind of participating in the meta, maybe not like super consciously, but I'm like, okay, I need Freddy to kill some people so that when Freddy gets killed, it's going to be really cathartic for me.
Oh, I mean? That's fair.
Like, I need the build up.
He's got to deserve it, because we want to see a villain. We want to see a villain, but then ultimately we want to see good triumph over evil.
Right. Yeah. He's got to do evil.
So
first.
We got to hate the villain, right?
Yeah.
We gotta want to hate the villain.
And I do, because they scare me.
Because they scare me, yeah. So short answer to this question is every slasher kind of has a different specific explanation, but I think Jim equating it to soap opera is a fair thing. Is like it can be a lot of different explanations.
Yeah. I might be wrong about the thing I said earlier with the clone. It might have been just a body double. And this also wasn't the tuberculosis death. This character has died 3 times. This might have been the time she was shot in the chest death, where she was She was about to die, and then the prince takes her away and spirits her to wherever he lives, and then she comes back later, not dead, because it's so easy to survive a gunshot wound to the chest. So,
if it's any consolation to you, Jim, you could still be wrong, and I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, this was over 20 years ago, and I haven't seen it in that long. So, my memories of all 3 of her deaths seem to have gelled into one somehow. So,
she's died another 5 times since then. So you know have to catch up on.
I did see that was the 3rd of 3 deaths, but that article was a couple years old. So by now, who even knows? You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's the most fun retroactively if they just happened in quick succession.
Yeah. I think, like within a year of one another.
There's a thing that used to bother me about the TV show Heroes, which was good for the first season. Then the writer's strike, I think, happened. So I guess I can't necessarily blame them. But one of the characters, the cheerleader, the famous Save the Cheerleader, Save the World.
Yeah.
Her power was that she couldn't die. She would like heal instantly and I guess didn't feel pain. But like she would be injured and then she'd like get up and her body would like mend itself.
Yeah.
That's a really good superpower. But the fact that she had it meant that narratively she had to die way more often than just anyone else would. Like she was injured all the time. And it was like this girl is just really unlucky. Like her friend that is another high school student who doesn't have superpowers is living just as long as her and he can die.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's very interesting because that was also just her only superpower. So like she could go into a burning building and save a person, but there's not a whole lot of things besides that kind of heroism that she could do because she can't fly. She doesn't have super strength. She's just heal good.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, listeners, it being Halloween, the time for spooky season, we have a third question this week. And question 3 comes to us from Ghostface. what's your favorite scary movie?
Oh.
We already talked a little bit about the Scream franchise, but I do have it on my list because I really like that. One, this question is a quote from the movie, but also I like that it is a whodunit mystery. I like watching those movies is fun. In addition to if you like slasher films, it's also fun to like watch and try to see how are all of the subtle clues leading to guessing the killer, and like, can you guess the killer? Like, I actively try to guess the killer every time I've seen one for the first time, and I have varied results.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the fun of the process.
So what about, I'm really curious to know, because I know Jim is not a big fan of horror as a genre.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Ah, that's great, because I don't have a favorite scary movie because I'm scared of all of them. But I will bring up two things that I really enjoy that are supposed to be scary on purpose. And one of them very recently had a new sort of mini-series attached to it. And I assume that you are all familiar, at least in passing, with the concept of Slender Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So way back in, I think it was like 2009 or 10, like right when Slender Man was first invented on Something Awful, a web series started up called Marble Hornets.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of this, I guess the genre is like apocalyptic blog is what it's called.
That's a good description.
Where, yeah, it follows these people as they are trying to investigate this mystery, and it just gets progressively worse the deeper into it they get. And it's very scary, to me at least. I mean, it's intended to be scary. It's like found footage style, and it's really unsettling, and it doesn't really answer a lot of the mysteries that it puts forth, which is fine, because it's not really necessarily about like solving who is Slender Man or, why does he have this effect on people. It's just, about the people as they progressively get more and more in this world and the effects that it has on them. But I really love Marble Hornets, and I was very, very excited over the last month or so. The two of the guys that originally did it made... It's not a sequel. It is another Slender Man series that is just set in a totally different universe. It was just 5 parts. It's called Rosswood. And that was real creepy as well. I enjoyed it. It did keep me up one night. But I as far as like scary media goes, Marble Hornets I really enjoyed quite a bit. And the sequel, it's not like a sequel, but it's by the two guys and it's about Slender Man. So there's a lot of overlap there. And then the other thing that I tend to enjoy is a genre of horror called analog horror.
Yeah.
Which Local 58 is a YouTube channel that is a great example of this. But things that are kind of like VHS looking recordings, and they're just sort of unsettling and wrong. Not necessarily outright scary, but just kind of creepy and off. And I really enjoy that sort of style of scary. But as far as movies go, I don't think I've ever even watched a scary movie.
Well,
I guess
fair.
I watched Signs, which is intended to be scary, and it did scare me, but it's not regarded as a well-constructed movie, even though I enjoyed it and I was scared by it. So,
well, that's fair. I was afraid of Christopher Walken's Headless Horseman in Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, and that movie's not really supposed to be scary either.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a kid, that scared me.
Yeah, it has excellent spooky vibes. Those movies are spookier than it feels like they have any right to be.
So I want to give an honorable mention to Evil Dead 2, because Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies. But I'm not putting it on the top of my list for this because I don't consider it a scary movie. It is a slapstick comedy. It's not remotely scary. It's just about monsters. So I had to mention it, but it's not my answer. I relate to Jim more than perhaps ostensibly I do, because I know I'm talking a lot about my extensive knowledge of the Nightmare on Elm Street canon, but I like fun horror. So I do enjoy occasional slasher movies, and I enjoy a good story, a good narrative. I do not enjoy being scared. So I don't like jump scares. I don't like playing through video games where you are put in the position of like you're afraid to advance because the monsters might be there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people like that because it gets the adrenaline running and stuff. That is not a thing that I find enjoyment in, which is kind of a contradiction in my own brain. And I think it's really interesting because I do like dark fantasy and urban legends and like I say, narrative. I like mythology quite a bit. So I can read a story about vampires and think, oh, this is really like interesting and intricate and stuff. But if it were on screen and there were a spooky vampire guy standing there, I'd be like, I don't like this. It's making me uncomfortable. So that in mind, I have 3 more to list. One of them is a group. I am a massive fan, as also a film student, of the Universal horror films. And I'll specify the actors in these because there are a lot of sequels to them and non-Universal movies that are lumped into canon, such as the Hammer films and stuff. But I specifically am a fan of Lugosi's Dracula, Karloff's Frankenstein and Mummy, Lon Chaney Jr.'s Wolfman, and my favorite of that series, Claude Rains in The Invisible Man.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue those movies, I would be really surprised if they scared Jim.
Yeah.
But they're horror movies. They're horror.
Yeah, I
monsters.
suppose so. Yeah. It's one of those things where I also think that the modern, and I say modern like post 80s horror genre has evolved quite drastically in a different direction than some of those kinds of movies.
I'll say which ones I don't like. I still have 2 on my list, but the ones that I'm not a huge fan of and have no desire to see are anything in the Conjuring universe. I don't like that kind of stuff. That freaks me out and I don't want to watch it. The last 2, I had to put Alien on the list.
Oh, yeah.
Alien is a slasher movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's real good, but it follows the formula of a slasher film like to a T. And then my last one that I don't want to talk too much about specifically because if you haven't seen it, this movie benefits very much from not having it spoiled for you. Cabin in the Woods.
Oh.
It's just so good, and it's not what you expect it to be going in, but it is a horror movie, but I like it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard very good things about Cabin in the Woods, but I don't know anything about it, and I'm probably never going to see it, to be fair, but like...
I don't think you would enjoy the experience of watching it, but I don't want to say it at least on the air, because if anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend going in blind.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that you don't like jump scares, because I also don't like jump scares, but for some reason, because Marble Hornets has loads of jump scares. I mean, it scared the crap out of me, so I guess it did its job, but like, I don't know, I was so interested in what was going to happen next that I still watched through it, even though it was very far out of my wheelhouse.
What I think about Marble Hornets was, we were talking about some horror slashers cannot die, and then there are creatures like Slender Man who cannot be fully known.
Yeah.
Right? So where the thrill of like those kind of villains is constantly wondering exactly what are they about, what's going on, and it's a kind of a slow series. There's a lot of those like jump scares happen after like a 2-minute segment of like rustling leaves.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of like buildup of like letting your mind fill in like what could be happening. And then they get you.
And one of the things that I think is really neat about the new series they did, this little 5-parter, is that there aren't really any jump scares that I can think of that are not, I mean, they're not even jump scares in this sense, because they are all preceded by some kind of like camera distortion. So as soon as you know that the camera starts getting crinkly, then something's going to pop out at you. So, but then it also primes you to be like, oh no, they are in trouble now because the camera's doing the thing.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating the way that they are able to do a jump scare, but also not really. And I think they really perfected their art with this last. I mean, obviously it's been 15 years, but I think they did a great job on this little revival series they made.
I think Alien is an interesting example you brought up there, because like the aliens die in those movies all the time, but there's always at the end of them all somebody's got one inside their chest or something. So the alien's gonna come back and do his thing again.
They always have the cliffhanger of it can come back because it's not literally the same individual one.
Yeah, we're kind of just like Freddy. We carry a little piece of him inside of us, right?
Yeah.
And then he bursts his way out. It all starts again.
It was almost wholesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to hear from Mark and Dave.
Are you a horror guy, Dave?
Yeah.
What? I wouldn't have guessed this.
What? Dave likes horror?
What?
Spooky Dave likes horror?
Whoa.
Yeah. This is a difficult question. I have no idea what my favorite. But it's like I can't answer what's your favorite movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this is basically just that question. There's so many, because I was like, okay, well, let me start thinking about horror movies I know. And then I was thinking of too many. And I was like, well, let me get a list of like maybe the best ones of all time. And I looked it up and I'm like, yeah, I've seen a lot of these. I've seen most of these. I like all of these a lot. So I have no clue what I would classify as my favorite. I did pick one just because I needed to pick one, and I'm gonna go with Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
just because I don't know, just the character work in that, just the Hannibal Lecter psychoanalyzing. I love psychological horror is really, really cool. I don't know, it does, and it's this it's this mystery, it's this investigation, it's this crime. And it's just like, I need to go talk to this monster in a cage and help me catch this monster on the loose. I like that. That's a good trope. I don't know. And that's like one of the great classics, obviously. So it's tied with many things, but like I could do that's probably a whole podcast in and of itself about movies that I like. So I'm just going to go with Silence of the Lambs for this
That's
question.
Fair. Well, I like that it was drastically different from anything that we've talked about thus far. So you've at least introduced a whole new subject to the topic. I also like the idea that in order to figure out, to get you to have an answer to the question, what's your favorite movie, we just keep narrowing it down to the point where we say, Dave, what is your favorite movie that is Space Jam?
The first one.
Good answer.
Good answer. I forgot they made another one.
I think I would have been really upset if you had said the second one. I've never seen the second one, but I know it's not a good movie.
To be fair, the first one isn't a good movie either.
It's a watchable movie, though.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Well, let's let Dave off the hook. Mark, you're in the firing lane.
Oh, you guys have mentioned some really good ones. I forgot about Marble Hornets, and I love The Invisible Man, the old Universal.
That's my favorite Universal movie.
Picture. It's so good, but it isn't exactly like I wasn't like quaking in fear while watching The Invisible Man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the theory. I like the philosophy of a horror story. Like we kept talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm genuinely not a huge fan of any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but I like the idea of Freddy Krueger and all the things you can do with that. So much. So like that's why I like Universal, is like, it's the atmosphere. It's the, what else is there to it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've interrupted you though. Sorry.
No, I know that's exactly it. Man, I don't know. I'm not a big horror guy either usually. There's this movie that came out maybe 5 or 6. It was pre-COVID. A real life horror story. I don't think it's very popular. It was called Life. I don't know if you guys saw that one. It's an alien movie.
But not the Life franchise. I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no. Like the board game.
I was thinking there's like an Eddie Murphy movie, I think.
Oh, oh, dang. No, this is that movie's. When you watch like two movies with the same title but they're drastically different, and
Yeah.
imagine they're in the same universe. I guess you could do that, but this would be very strange. The movie was not very popular, I guess, but what I really liked about it is it's like a more grounded type story. It starts out in like the International Space Station, and they find like a bacteria in a Martian sample of soil, and they revive it, and it starts growing, and it grows into this little creature. And it starts off all grounded like that, and there's like this cute scene where they get some like second grade class on Earth to name it. And they're like, let's call it Calvin. And so the whole rest of the movie, this thing that's going around killing people on the space station, they're like, Calvin's here, he's coming. But it's what I like about it is it's the horror of this like unknown creature, and they kind of bring up obliquely that it's just, if you imagine this creature as like a human that was abducted by aliens and awoke on a strange spaceship, it's kind of just trying to itself escape and get out and find its way home. It's kind of acting on its own human and animal instincts. And these poor hapless people that found it all get killed one by one, trying to contain it. And then, of course, it finds its way to Earth. So I guess it's kind of like the eerie confronting this like strange intelligence. I kind of like the stories where the evil thing wins, and I kind of like feel all disturbed for a minute, and then I walk outside, and I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful world. Like none of that was true, and I kind of get some catharsis. Then I'm like, oh, life is good.
It's a fair. I mean, there's something to be said for like watching really sad stories. Like nobody wants to admit that they like a sad movie, but like they're interesting for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I almost thought you were going to say, because I haven't seen this movie, but I almost thought you were going to say it's like horror from the perspective of the monster.
Yeah, it kind of is at some points.
There's a movie that did not accomplish this, but I wanted it to so bad. I think it's called You're Next. And it's a bunch of teenagers at a party or something, and they are attacked by a group of masked killers. And it's set up like, oh, this is going to be like a slasher movie. All these teenagers are going to get killed by these like masked killers. But one of them happens to be like a prepper, like a doomsday prepper, or like her dad was a doomsday prepper or something. So she's really good at like making traps and defending herself and stuff. And it like almost turns into the masked killers are now the victims in this slasher movie. And I'm like, I wish they had gone that much further. Because I liked that idea so much.
That's a fun concept, yeah.
I think that's kind of what they started going for. I just was unsatisfied with the execution.
I think the movie I brought up was kind of received poorly for the same reason, because
okay.
In order to make this alien creature seem kind of like a frightening intelligence, they kind of had to dumb everybody else down. So, they make all those dumb horror choices that everybody's always complaining about.
All right, listeners, let us know, what is your interpretation of a vaguely scientific horror movie?
I die first.
Jim dies first? I'm sad.
I swallow a whole Tesla coil.
You're thrown out of the airlock on a spaceship.
I mean, it's the killer robots, to be fair.
Oh, that's true. Oh, it is the killer robots. Dang it. There is an
Who would have
answer.
expected
Okay.
the killer robots to kill everyone?
They're coming back. If you have any thoughts on that or anything else we talked about or anything else that we didn't talk about, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, and you can comment on our blog on the website. You can like us on Facebook, or you can follow us at Blue Sky @vaguelyscientific. Hey, Jim,
That's
where
me.
do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listeners, and if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other cool places that podcasts like to hang out, and subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
Tell your friends. It could be part of your trick or treat. Trick, treat, or vaguely scientific question.
Yeah, just throw a bunch of flash drives into the kids' bags with episodes on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli. And don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. If you haven't seen the really cool new design that Allie made with the Minotaur trapped in the internet, it's very cool. I like it. It's got sort of a Greek pottery look to it, which looks really incredible. So check that out and other stuff.
Yeah. And thank you to Mark and David for being our guests this week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
Bye, Mark.
And I'm Spooky Dave.
Yeah.
Ah.
And that's the end of our little dialogue. That's all the correspondence for today. Take scare. We'll scream you next time. Happy Halloween.
That was good. I liked it.
Thank you. I was doing it.
That was very good.
Toodaloo.
The ghost sound.
Yeah.
Speaking of executing perfectly.
Yes.
Now, Jim, cut everything here because that's my segue. I do want to make sure. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to say about the first question?
No notes. I love it.